Hi, I'm Mark Manis, live from the PGA Merchandise Show. I'm here with Bob Vokey, Wedge works at Titleist. It's a pleasure to have you this afternoon, Bob. I really appreciate you spending some time with us. I know you've changed the wedge line tremendously this year, and so many things have changed. What was the impetus behind the change?
There's a lot of information that I did receive over the years from the PGA Tour. Plus, also, after the groove change, the condition competition, and the loss of spin that we had, there was a little challenge in that particular area there that I wanted to do to try to regain some of the spin that we lost. And so I went back to our, I call real sharp R&D people.
Sure.
That I have some young guys, they're like, I call it from another planet than I'm from. So I said, guys, this is what I want to do. This is what the score line that we have now. These are all the numbers, because we lost about 30%. Excuse me, probably 30, probably almost more than actually 3,000 RPMs out of the rough, which was significant.
That's tremendous.
Significant.
That's not just a little bit. That's tremendous.
We also lost that. We also lost a launch angle. Went up a little bit, almost 5 degrees higher. Plus, on rollout on the green, we lost anywhere 15 to 20 feet rollout once it hit. So that was significant. So I said, we got to take it a little closer to the edge. We were very conservative, so we looked at all the drawings. Then we started working. We had, God, I don't know how many different combinations of grooves.
I heard rumor of around 50.
Oh, you couldn't believe it. It was unbelievable. So we turned around, we tried all different tests. We took them out our TPR, our test area. We took them on the PGA Tour under all different conditions. And the groove that we've actually arrived at was actually a 17 groove that we have right now on a SM4. We're able to gain back almost up to 1,000 RPMs more, which is significant considering what we lost.
Sure.
But it wasn't so much of the spin that we gained back, but we were able to gain back a very consistent groove that was very consistent from fairway, from the first cut, from the rough, from the bunkers, my little chips, little pitches. It was a very consistent groove, because what we had in the past, call it the spin mill groove, it may spin a little bit. One time we found the ball would come out low and spinny, another time it would balloon a little bit. But now we find this groove, it's consistent all the time. It's going to do the same thing every time you strike the ball, which was very, very important.
Yeah, as a player, I always noted that my wedges needed to be a consistent trajectory. That's really what the players, I believe, are looking for. Difficult to control your distance if you can't control your trajectory.
It's even more so now. I grew up, and you probably yourself grew up, you were taught trajectory. You were taught about that. But a lot of times there's a lot of younger players coming up, they don't really know trajectory.
No, they don't.
They don't know all these windows that you have to hit to actually hit the ball low, hit it high, move it right, move it left.
Yes.
Of course, the balls are flying a little straighter, nature of the ball a little firmer, nature of the clubs, they cannot work it like they used to. So they did not grow up learning that trajectory, but all of a sudden now, because the ball is launching a little higher, not spinning as much as it used to, they're learning about trajectory. They're learning how to hit these little different shots.
I love to hear that, because frankly, I'd like the game to go that direction.
No doubt about it. This is one thing I can say. You can say all the pros and cons about the new rule, condition of competition groove that USJ did. I think they've done a great job. I am really adjusted to it now, and I think the players have adjusted to it. As I said many times, these guys are good, and they were able to adjust to it.
Absolutely. Now, in changing the golf club, obviously the groove change is probably the most noticeable thing to most players, but I even noticed a profile change. As I look at the club, it harkens back to the 200 series wedge. Why'd you go back there? Well,
actually, when I look back, it's a lot of feedback that I was getting from a lot of our tour players. Some of our top players still like the 200 series look. And we have a 200 series because we still have a number of players playing that particular look. So I said, what I'm going to try to do, because a wedge is very important when you do the design of it, because one of the wedges, what it actually does, it has to look good in the playing position. But a wedge is, because of what you see more of the profile, it's very critical that it has to look good in when you lay it open a little bit. You want to hit a lot of these little touchy-feely shots. When you want to add a little bit more bounce, a little bit more loft to it. So it has to look pleasing. So I tried to revert back to what I called my teardrop look, which was a little high in the toe area and a little narrow in the par area. So I was able to do that, plus what I tried to do, along with, I tried to make a little bit more pleasing like my Series 200 had. I had progressive leading edges, toes, top lines. In other words, it went from a semi-square look to a rounder look as I went through from my 46 on through my 64.
Okay.
Very, very pleased, and that's similar to my Series 200 look.
Allow the short irons to transition into the wedges.
No doubt about it. Short irons for alignment,
Wonderful.
little square.
Sure.
Right.
So you do that, and then we turn the club over and we start to look at the bounce of the golf club.
That's right.
And it seems like every one of them changed. I play a 60-04.
Yes.
And the 60-04, you actually move the actual backside of the bounce deeper into the sole.
Exactly what I did, because what I did, it came from Tour, came from actually Rory McIlroy, for one was playing a wedge, and he loved the L grind, so I said, that's a pretty good wedge. Then there's a few other players were liking it. I said, doggone, I'm going to check it. So I tested with some other players, and doggone, I found it was a good wedge. It's versus what I call my original 64. 64 has it now, but original T grind, which I had in the 60. So I was able to change that, and I moved that original T grind into my 62 and 64, and I put the L grind into my my 58 low bounce and my 60 low bounce. Let's give the ability. It may have a little bit of bounce, but it plays low bounce, which gives you the ability to lay it open, allows you, cut the legs out from underneath the ball, where you can pop it up a little pop shot, plus have enough bounce that you can use in for very, I call it maybe firmer conditions, little tighter lies.
Okay. Well, the big question I had beyond that was the one thing that didn't change, the shaft.
Yes,
we've had the S200 shaft in this wedge for as long as I can remember, and you didn't change. I've seen a couple of manufacturers at the show that are putting this spinner shaft in all their wedges.
Yep.
And my question is, why not?
Yeah, well, here's what happened. I've done so much. My first obvious answer is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Obviously, because it's been very successful on tour, been very successful with all the players. But I'll never say anything negative about other people's shafts, or because I had True Temper, which is our main shaft supplier. They supplied me with the spinner shaft, and as you notice, even in this club here, we have it as a custom offering. But I think it's very, very, very player dependent. I found the shaft of all the testing I've done over the years on tour, plus what I call our VIP shaft. The S200 was a subflex shaft. It was heavy enough to give you ability to feel the overall weight of the club. With a wedge, you want to be able to feel resistance. You want to feel that resistance up there. But you don't want it to be too heavy that it's actually going to affect club head speed. So you want to be able to maintain that. With all the testing we did, that shaft fell right into what I found the S2, what it actually did. It was a subflex, but it was soft enough for the touchy-feely shots, but yet firm enough to stay with you when occasionally the player had to, I call it, stand on it. Which, how often do you do that with a sand wedge? You want it more of the touchy-feely shots, which I found it gave me enough flex to give me the proper elevation across the full spectrum of all the shots that you're going to encounter during a round.
Absolutely.
And that's so it's been there.
What in testing? What's the spinner shaft? What are you finding it actually adds?
I didn't think it added that much. The testings that I did didn't add that much more spin, but there was a little different feel that some of the players did like.
Somewhat.
And I get somewhat. They asked me. I had a couple of spinner players wanted me to spinner last year. I put it in, but there's a couple. Of course, they reverted back to what they were used to. And the case was dynamic gold. I'm not saying it is a bad thing, because I do have spinner requests, and I have other manufacturer requests. I get KBS requests. I get actually, I call it Pro X. They're very, very, very popular also. But I'll do them all. But the majority of the wedges that I have in play now on tour, I would say, are with the dynamic gold.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Lastly, the line even widened a little bit.
Yes.
As you got into the lower lofts, you added a couple of bounce options.
I did.
What was the impetus behind that?
Well, first off, what I was finding, and I said before, years and years ago, what happened with pitching wedge, all of a sudden they went from 51, 52, and I remember, all of a sudden, they are down to 46 degrees.
Yeah, they are.
Sand wedges stayed at 56. And I can say when you're fitting, as I said, you hit the balls, there's going to be a gap in your fitting when you're doing your custom fitting, working with players. As I said before, you got to know your gaps, know all your options. Is a lobber for you, and you'll find that you know your gaps. I said earlier, we're talking about, you could turn it, go to your favorite range, hit your ball that you play with normally. Hit a grouping of 8 irons, 9 irons, pitching wedge, and sand wedge. You'll see a gap, and it always will go in right in the pitching wedge range. So what I tried to do, I said, I'm going to expand upon the 46, 48, 50 range right in there, and I added actually 2 bounces on the 48, 2 bounces on the 50, And also in the 52, I got 2 bounce, a mid and a high bounce. So what I found is people say, well, why do you have a pitch? Why is somebody going to? I said, well, what happened is the wedges that I done, more pitching wedges to me to come with a set, they're designed as an extension of a set. It's more of a 10 iron. What I did when I designed a 46, 48, and 50, I designed it with the creativity of a scoring wedge. Gives you the ability to hit a lot of different shots that you make and give you that feeling of confidence. That's what I tried to instill in my 48 on through my 46, 48, 50.
More playability for more different shots.
No doubt about it.
Excellent.
Guaranteed.
Excellent. Kind of last couple of notes.
Sure.
Number one, you did talk a little bit about fitting. You start at the 60-degree wedge and work your way down trying to fill gaps, correct?
Well, I'll do that. On tour, it's sometimes really, and indirectly on tour, it's fairly a little easier to fit than it is to fit a weekend golfer,
Sure.
which you're probably dealing with.
Sure.
Because they actually almost know what they want and they fill their gaps and they have the ability to hit a lot of different shots.
A bit argumentative at times as well.
And okay, you're not that way. You were never that way, were you, Mark?
No, not at all.
No, not at all. Anyway, no, you knew what you wanted, and that's one thing a tour player does. You know what he wants, and it's up to me to provide that. But you know what I'm saying? The weekend golfer, like fitting them, and I said things that are really important. Know your gaps. The average golfer really does. You look in their bag. They don't really know how far they hit their clubs. Know their gaps. It's already, as I say many times, it's okay that what you can hit, you can hit on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but can you back off and hit those certain half shots, dreaded half shots, quarter shots? Can you hit those shots on the backside Sunday afternoon? That's the key. But I find, why do that when you can turn around and have the ability to put another wedge in your bag and you can actually know your gaps and know that you do. And also, the other, know your options. Know what type of wedges that you need. Know your particular swing. Are you a digger? Are you a slider? Know your courses that you play for. Have you got flat greens or elevated greens, small greens, pot bunkers, small greens you may need for a 58 or a 60-degree lobber. But if you don't have that, lower fat, yeah, you're better off with a gap wedge in there. You're better off, and I'd like to see I think the average weekend golfer should be playing, if he's going to play enough, I like to see 4 wedges. Pitching wedge, I call approach wedge, a sand wedge, and a lobber. I'd like to see anywhere from 4 degrees because, as I said before, the average weekend golfer, he doesn't profess the club head speed to hit those 300-yard drives,
absolutely.
hit those 2, 3, 4 irons, those high-hanging shots. He doesn't have that, but he does have the ability, that tour player does, to hit shots about 100 yards and in. With practice, he has the ability to get it up and down.
Sure.
Think about it, Mark. How many greens does a tour player hit?
12 to 13.
12 to 13. Average weekend golfer, 8.
8.
How many up and down opportunities he has?
Absolutely.
He's better off putting another wedge in the bag and replace a bad tool with a good tool. That's what I like to say.
Absolutely. Bob, I really appreciate the time.
My
I wish
pleasure.
you much good
My
golf.
pleasure. Good.
Have a great week here at
Good.
the show.
Thank you very much for your support.
Absolutely.
Thank you.